it? Welcome back to the Collective Clips, where you already know we get it in. But before we get it in, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding! Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I'm kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel, and it's all because of you. And for that, I can say I'm very humbled and I'm very much appreciative. So I was asked a question yesterday, or the subject came up in the live, and I remembered a story, man, from back when I was in Fred C. Nelles. And it was a trip. And then when I was asked the question and I was told, and I was asked by someone, hey, man, can you do a story on it, a video on it? Absolutely, 100%. And we're about to do that right now. But even more so, it's crazy how sometimes you forget these memories and they're there. They're chambered, right? And then everything starts flooding back. And this story is about Victory Outreach. Now, Victory Outreach, I think the first Victory Outreach, I'm not for sure. Don't quote me on it, but I think it was started in the Los Angeles area, right? And Victory Outreach was basically, and still is around, it's a church. And it was a program. There was a lot of people getting out of prison with the mentality that they wanted to change their lives. They wanted to serve a higher purpose and a higher power. And I'm going to be honest with you, here's my reality even now. I'm a Catholic. I go to church. I don't impress it upon people. It's up to you ultimately to decide what you want to do right with your life. But I get looked at. I get judged, right? I found that church is probably the most judgmental place I've ever been. People always look at me because of the tattoos on my head and the tattoos on my body, you know. And it makes me feel awkward. Not odd, but awkward, right? And there's just some places I go where people will prejudge you and automatically think you're there for drama or trouble when that's not the case. And you would think that the Lord's house would be the one spot where you don't get judged, but it's pretty much the spot where you do the most, right? So Victory Outreach was started with an understanding that it was meant to help people that were incarcerated, people that were getting out trying to transition into better living, but also it was brought about for people. And a lot of the raza, like Chicanos, man, found a safe haven, a place to go where everyone looked like them. Big brochas, tattoos, the Pinto style, right? The Chicano culture, man. It was there. It was definitely a big influence in Victory Outreach. And people felt comfortable. You know, you feel comfortable being around your own gente. That's kind of like an HBCU college, a black college, where a lot of the brothers go there and sisters go there, man, because not only do they get a great education, but they're culturally invested in their culture. They get exposed to their truths. They get exposed to being around their people, and it makes you feel comfortable. And the last thing you want to do is make someone feel uncomfortable, right? So it's kind of the same thing with Victory Outreach. It was a program started for incarcerated individuals that got out, and now it's blown up and they've helped a lot of people. And Victory Outreach truly is good, or is it, right? Because I wanted to tell a story about Fred C. Nelles. I'm in YA. And I remember, man, about a week prior, we were on a compa called Kennedy. And we had just got off lockdown. We had a riot. And I felt like for no other reason to tell you guys the background, I got to tell you about the riot. So prior to being on Kennedy, all the Norteños were being housed on Cleveland, right? Which was another compa. And one day they just told us, they started reading out names. They're like, roll it up, roll it up, roll it up. They started rolling up. They rolled up 10 Norteños. And they were like, you guys are going to go to Kennedy. Kennedy was a drug program. Now, the reason we were being moved to the drug program, there was 2 drug program compas. And let me explain drug program. It wasn't a bunch of J-Cats high. You had to do packets there, and it was the only compas that was there. And across the street was Madison, which I ultimately ended up going to Madison too. But it was where you were able, they had drug counselors there, and you were able to talk to the drug counselors, do these little packets. No one did this shit. We threw it away. But that's what it was. That was what the drug program was. And those that had drug programs in the youth authority was because we tried to pull a slick move and said we had a drug problem. So that way we can, get moved to a facility where we wanted to be. It didn't work out that way. Governor Pete Wilson was not letting that happen. You were going wherever they fucking sent you, period. And so they tell us roll it up. We go to Kennedy. I remember we walked through those doors. It got quiet. There was a couple Southsiders in the day room. They kind of looked up, shook their head. We knew it was on and cracking, right? So we ended up going to Chow. When we got back from Chow, and I'm telling all the homeboys, they're telling me, we're telling each other, be on point, man. These fools are going to kick it off. Southerners were looking very sketchy. They were looking like it was on and cracking. And I remember Alvato from Primera Flats. He was an Africano. He was a black dude from Primera Flats. he got up and there was a water faucet, right? And he went to the water faucet, and when he turned around, he was like, Busters, and he rushed. We all jumped up and it was on and cracking, right? A riot happened, a melee, and chairs being thrown. I mean, it was a good one. It was one of the better ones that I was ever involved in, right? Motherfuckers were cracking each other with chairs, just getting off. And we all got slammed. We went on a lockdown situation called the freeze, which is what they used to place us on there. And they gave us a month on the freeze. So we did a month on the freeze. And man, the freeze sucked. For those that went through it, man, you got 2 cheese sandwiches and a milk 3 times a day. You sat up on your bunk in boxer shorts and a t-shirt and chanclas. And all you got to do, you had to sit up at the end of your bunk all day long until it was bedtime. Then you got to go to sleep, right? And all you did, the only movement there was a controlled shower 1 at a time. And they ran that all day. Or you got to go to the latrine area, which is the bathroom, 1 at a time, right? But it was a super lockdown situation. It was heavily guarded. They had fucking officers all throughout there to make sure it didn't pop off again. And I'm not going to lie, I've been on the freeze a few times, and a couple times it did pop off. Like, fuck it, we're already on it. Let's just extend this shit. But so we went through that. So we were getting at each other through contact, looking at each other, talking to each other when we could in passing. And it was basically like, we need our run backs. These fools kicked it off on us. We're going to get off now, right? So we got off freeze. The senior, which was the main officer, came back after 2 weeks, and he was like, hey, I'm going to let you guys off freeze early, right? So it was about 3 weeks. They sat us in a big old circle in the day room, blacks, whites, browns, everyone who they felt were influential with their people, right? And let us discuss it and talk it out. We played the role like, yeah, it's all good, it's all good. And as soon as they lifted it, that day in the day room, the Norteños got off. We rushed, right? Same old thing, bam, slam. Brothers were mad. Damn, Northerners, right? We got off, went back, and this is the way they did it. They would lock everyone down, not just North and South, but everybody. And that was kind of a way the administration figured if we lock everyone down, eventually the blacks and whites would get at the Mexicans and be like, hey, calm your shit down, bro. We're tired of being on lockdown. But all it did was cause more grief and more fucking animosity between everybody, because now the brothers were mad because they were getting punished for shit they weren't even involved in, right? But it was what it was. That's part of the game, So we had got off again, so now the Southerners gave us their word they weren't going to retaliate. It would be all one-on-ones behind handball courts or in the blinds. We gave them our word too. See, we had never given our word the first time. It was kind of like, yeah, bam, right? Just like they didn't give us no word when we walked in. So that's what it was. So I remember, man, the senior there was tapped in with Victory Outreach. And he had been telling us, hey, I'm going to bring some guys in, some old school G's from Victory Outreach. They're going to come talk to you guys, try to help you guys. In changing your ways of thinking. Because what it was and why, there were some good officers there that wanted better for children there. There were some that treated you like shit and did bad things to you, right? But this guy was a good one. He was a good one. And so I remember that day in particular, we were all kicking back, and 3 guys walked in the door. Straight straight OGs, whips down to their nipples, right? And when I was a kid, I didn't understand or even know the history on these guys until I got older. And I knew exactly who I was dealing with, 2 of the individuals. And when they walked in, he announced them, hey, these are the guys from Victory Outreach. These guys look like they just walked straight out of the Folsom Yarda. Straight pintos, right? OG, don't. This is for la raza. They walked in, and it always tripped me out. They didn't bring no black guys, no white guys. They were just 3 straight Chicanos. And you could tell by their steel pants pulled up to their throats. These guys have been there and done that, right? So as they walk in, one of them comes up to us and he goes, hey, are you homies? And we look at him, and he was a big, fat dude, but like swole too. And he had gilas real big on his back. And he introduced himself as Black Bart. Black Bart from Gilroy. I'll never forget. Blasted back, big old whip. He had a hat like this flipped up. He was an OG, right? And he sat down with us. He said, let me get at you, homies, right? And there was another dude that was there, and his name was Kilroy. And I'm sure you've seen the movie, and you know exactly what his resume is and who he is. He actually walked over to where the Southerners were, and they started to have like a junta. And there was one other guy. And this was the time when Fresno was still there, but the Bulldogs they were just like in the middle of like breaking off. It's hard to explain. It was like that time. Like they had already received the WILA. They were trying to decide what they were going to do. So they started to like sit like differently apart from us. The Fresno boys, there was like 3 or 4 of them. Joey Boy, Zapian, K9 from Fresno. Shorty wasn't there. He was still on Cleveland. It was K9, Joey Boy, a couple other dogs, right? Porky and Diller. And that's who it was, them four. And they were sitting kind of the side. And there was a dude from Fresno that walked in. He was an OG, he was skinny, big old whip. He had a F-14 and a star right here on his forehead. And he sat down with us. And one of the homeboys from San said, hey, bro, Fresno's over there. Because I thought Fresno blasted right here. And he was like, nah, I'm right here, homie. I'm right here, see? Right? And oh, shit. And so this is what happened. We're thinking, okay, we're going to get indoctrinated with Victory Outreach doctrine. We're going to get told about, how to change your life and how to find the Lord and some of the trials and tribulations these guys went to and how they changed their life. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all, right? What happened was these guys, well, I didn't know before, were NF members, active at the time, right? And they started to give us klecha. And basically they said, hey, so what the fuck you guys doing here? We told them, hey, that the cops sent us here. This is what it is. And they were like, hey, what's a chupar? And the dude from Fresno did a lot of the talking. The other dude, Black Bart from Gilas, who's a very historical figure in the NF movement, kind of just sat to the side and just surveyed everything, right? He was like, hey, well, you can't let these vatos violate you, homes. You guys can't let them get at you guys in any type of fashion, homes. Wait, let me come on, my bros. I look good, right? I was like, oh, shit. And these guys basically started to tell us to get off with the Southerners. How we needed to body someone. How we needed to fucking get up. Like crazy shit. And I remember as a kid, I'm thinking, damn, what's going on? I'm looking at the homeboy Bad Boy from Sakura. And I'm telling him like, damn, bro, what the fuck is this, right? And he's looking at me like, oh, no, bro, right? And these dudes are like, hey, when we leave, you guys need to all make pieces. You guys shouldn't function on this main line. You guys should fucking body these guys. And I could see the Southerners were over there and that Vato Kilroy was talking to them. Now, I can't sit here and say what he was preaching to them or the philosophies or what he was telling them. But they kept looking our way. And all of a sudden, because we had for the last week, it had kind of been like there was no mean mugging, shoulder shrugging. There was none of that. Everyone was kind of just like, okay, cool. There was some one-on-one fights, like I said, in the blinds. But we were resigned to the fact that they weren't going to send us nowhere. We were there, And there was no mean mugging or nothing. Because we had come to the understanding if there was mean mugging, we'll just fucking get off and keep getting off every day. Fuck it, right? They felt that way. We felt that way. And there was much more. There was about 40 Southerners and only 10 of us. So it was like even. That's how we felt, that the numbers were even, right? And so they're kind of looking, mean mugging all of a sudden. We're mean mugging back. And it was crazy. And so I remember that happened. They were like, you guys got to get off. When they left, right? We were like, fuck that. Them emojis are nuts, right? We're cool. We're going to do it the way we do it. And I've never forgotten that. Okay, so I got out. Years later, I had a homeboy that his dad passed away. His dad was real big into Victory Outreach. And I remembered that story. This was 20-something years ago. And he told me, so I told him, I was like, damn, them Vatos are straight up gangsters, bro. And he was like, yeah. And I told him, yeah, they try to fucking pump us up to get off, which we never did. And the Southerners never said anything, so it was all good, right? We ended up having riots, not because of that and that influence, but other shit. And so I get out. And the homeboy's dad passes away. And like I said, he was heavy into that church. And I never went to Victory Outreach. Never felt encumbered to go there. Like it was never a reason to go there. I went to Catholic church. That was my thing. That was just where I went, right? But I did go one day with him, they had a wake. And there was a gang of Vatos from Victory Outreach. And I remember seeing them. And my first thought was, man, a lot of these guys are old school tecatos. They're still in the mix. And trip out on this. There was one guy in particular, man. He said, hey, little homie, let me get at you. Woo. Can I get at you? Yeah. So I went over there, started chopping it up with him. And he was trying to preach to me and how I should change my life. And I wasn't ready for all that shit. I was super active and in the mix. And I was like, nah, I ain't trying to hear all that, bro. I'm here for the homie, to support the homie and his dad. I'm not here to get preached to, right? Thought I was too hard for the radio. I thought it was too cool. And that dude was like, yeah, bro, you got to change your life. You got to give your life to God. Well, let me tell you about that guy, right? That dude was a straight up killer, right? So it was, I think, a couple months later, right? My homeboy comes up to me. He's like, hey, bro, I got to get at you. The homeboy's name was Sonny. Rest in peace. He's dead now, He's like, hey, bro, let me get at you. Come here. He's like, hey, remember that Vato that was preaching to us and shit? The one you told him, Charlie? He was like, fool, you're lucky. I said, what? He said, he was preaching to about 3 or 4 dudes. And these dudes were denying. This fool went on a crusade and started whacking people. Straight killing them. Right? Tripping because they weren't trying to hear what he was saying. I was like, oh, I wasn't trying to disrespect them. And I thought back like I was, right? And so that was that, man. I'll never forget, like, oh shit, these dudes are fucking different. And I always wondered, with Victory Outreach, I've heard a lot of different shady things in the past, and I ain't got nothing bad to say about that church because they have helped a lot of people. But I've heard that, in the beginning, it was it was a facade. It was not everything that everyone thought it was. It was meant to hide things for people. And that's what it was. I don't want to go too deep into that. But let me tell you what happened. So, a homeboy gets out of prison, and we were in Nelles together. He was in Norteño. And we start to chop it up. We're reminiscing. Hey, bro, where'd you go? I went to Monroe. Where'd you go? I went to Kennedy and Madison. We're chopping it up. And we never ran into each other, but like in the school area, and it had been years. We didn't run across each other in prison, which was rare. Because a lot of the dudes I was locked up with, north, south, black, white, we all ran into each other in prison, right? Y was just a training ground for prison. And so it was like a big old family reunion. So he gets to talking. He's like, hey, bro, do you remember those Victory Outreach people came? I said, oh, they went to your guys' compa too? He was like, yeah, bro. He was like, do you remember when that Southerner stabbed that other Southerner? I said, yeah. He says, well, look. And I said, well, who went over there? I thought it was the same guys, but I guess these guys, they had different groups of guys that went to different compas at the same time. And they literally fucking found a huila. This dude had a cell. So in Nelles, there was bunks, day room. Their day room, then there was the dorm, then there was cells, like 11 cells, 11 or 12 cells, I think it was. This dude was in the cell. He was from Sanjo. I'll never forget. And one of these dudes from Victory Outreach shot him a huila, and he fucking whacked the dude there that had snitched, I guess, on some dudes from fucking, I'm not going to say what gang or whatever, and didn't kill him, but stabbed the shit out of him. And I remember when that stabbing happened, we all heard about it, like, there was a stabbing that went on over there, and like, wow, because it didn't really happen too much. Whatever. That dude ended up going to Nixon and catching a new charge. He got an upper deviation is what they called it. He caught a new case. And the other dude got fucking flown up out of there. He was done. They ended up transferring him to, I think, Paso or Ventura or somewhere, right? And, it was just stabbing. We thought it was between two cellies, but really this dude ran in this dude's cell. And they found a huila. And I didn't know till years later, like I said, when I was shopping with the homeboy, he goes, you didn't know what happened? He's like, I was right there, bro. He's like, that dude ran up in his cell as soon as they popped the doors for chow and got to booking him. He was like, they laid everyone down, and we were on lockdown, the freeze for a while because of that. I said, I remember, bro, but it was years, so I didn't distinctly remember because it wasn't my compa, so I didn't remember the whole story. He was like, yeah, bro, one of them dudes from Victory Outreach slid that dude a huila, a full hand. I was like, fuck, them vatos are nuts. So I said, they were over there trying to get us to stab somebody, right? So I'm, like I said, I've never been to that church, and I don't want to speak ill on that church. I'm just talking about these individuals and who they brought. It was crazy. And I forgot about it for years until, people started mentioning it. And, a lot of the things that happened as a kid, man, in the youth authority was always influenced by prison politics or by what we believed we wanted to be, And so having veteranos like that, OGs, straight gangsters coming in, active as fuck, I'm really surprised we didn't do what this dude said to do. And so now looking into the history of who was there, man, I know who Kilroy is and what he was a part of, the organization and his whole life story. That fool was he was with it. Rest in peace to that dude, but he was with it. And then they brought in Black Bart from Gilroy, and he's very instrumental and historical into the NF history. Another one, right? Trip. And the other dude from Fresno, I never knew his name. I forgot and never really knew who he was, but obviously he was an old school NF member. That boy was treacherous. He was like, kill as many of these motherfuckers as you can. Like, don't leave any of them breathing. I was like, damn, bro, there's only 10 of us. There's 40 of them. He was like, it's even, right? And it was old school. Anyways, man, that's the story. It almost kicked off. It almost did. We almost moved on it. But an incident did happen because of that. And like I said, the dude on the streets, so I always thought, Victory Outreach was just a whole bunch of fucking gang members going, trying to utilize or play the church role for parole or whatever it is. But I guess it's not like that. I heard they do a lot for people, man. It's actually a great program. That right there kind of sealed the nail in the coffin for me. I was like, nah, I'm cool with that shit. It's too cutthroat for me, right? And that's just what happened. That's the truth. That really happened. Anyways, with that being said, I hope that you move with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the strive to struggle, the struggle to strive. I will continue to tell these stories as I remember them, man. Thank you for the homeboy that asked me about telling the story because I had forgot all about it. Now you got me thinking like, What was that fucking dude? Black Bart said, "You know who the fuck I am, homie?" Right? I was like, "Charlie, I don't know who you are. I know your fucking breast stinks, though, is it?" Right? He was a big OG though. It was crazy. With that being said, the gun.